Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. Welcome to Extra Crispy. So as we all know, this NBA season's just been one of the strangest, if not the strangest of all time. We're only 3 weeks into it. A lot of that is for external reasons that leads to, players just not being able to get like a sense of a schedule or just like rhythm or just like what you need to do to be successful, right, man? Especially in the NBA where you got to be on top of your game because you're playing against the best of the best in the world, right, man? So with that being said, man, we have every NBA team's biggest disappointment after 3 weeks. Now these are things that eventually could fix themselves. These are things that maybe it just is what they appear to be. You don't really know. So if you guys want to let me know in the comment section below what you think your team's biggest disappointment is. As a Piston fan, it was Killian Hayes' injury. I mean, even like Killian Hayes, his struggles, I expected that. But the injury just really sucks. Just huge disappointment, man. So here we go. Let's get going on this. And the first team we have, and for some reason these pictures are all like really pixelated. I don't really know why. But we have Atlanta Hawks simmering strife. So I guess what they mean by this is just like, you can kind of feel like a certain tension among some of the players in the organization. One of them being like John Collins and Trae Young. I think you fix that by probably just trading away John Collins. You can get something back for him. And, you got Gallinari who can be your starting power forward just like that. So, yeah, I say they probably just do that. And they probably will by the trade deadline if you ask me. Next up, we got Boston Celtics, the bigs. So this one I don't really think is that big of deal, that being Tristan Thompson and Daniel Tice. We both know what those guys were brought in for. I mean, Daniel Tice obviously being a guy over the past few seasons for the Celtics that can just like give you a nice, just like tough player at that center spot, can stretch the floor a little bit. I mean, I think he's been shooting some threes this season. Then Thompson was brought more in as being like the 6'10 guys that can defend some of the bigger guys like Joel Embiid, grab some rebounds and stuff. But then offensively, if you really do think about it too, this team has not had like their actual point guard Kemba Walker. So just having a guy like that get into the basket is going to open up things more offensively for especially Thompson, going forward and stuff. So just not having that natural playmaker. Yes, like Jeff Teague and like players like that are fine, but you need that Kemba Walker out there that's going to open up the court so much more. Next up, we got the Brooklyn Nets defensive rebounding. I mean, yeah, as far as like rotation goes, you do have, DeAndre Jordan and Jarrett Allen, both, 7-footers out there. DeAndre Jordan, one of the better rebounders of all time, but he's getting up there in age. He's always been an athletic-based player, so once the athleticism starts to go, so does the rebounding and stuff like that. But even at the same time, Kevin Durant should be grabbing some boards out there. As far as like the power forward spot, I think KD's actually been starting at power forward, so that's not really his natural position. So he's always been a good rebounder, but it's never been like, hey, KD, like, you have to rebound now. And I'm pretty sure he's averaging probably like 7-8 a game. I don't have the exact statistic, but yeah, I'm sure that's something that will hopefully fix itself in time. Next up, we got the Charlotte Hornets, Devontae Graham. I think people didn't really see this one coming all that much. But you got to look at it like this, man. Like, the Hornets were one of the worst teams in the NBA last season, and Devontae Graham was putting up numbers, but it was with very low efficiency. So now you look at a team that's looking to build more of a system, run it around their new rookie point guard, LaMelo Ball. And at that point, Devontae Graham, that efficiency shows up a lot more because maybe he's not taking as many shots. So it's like the low efficiency can still be there, but the stats aren't looking there. It looks like a guy is struggling. And I just feel like, over time, somebody had to be the odd man out for LaMelo to be the guy. So I guess if Devontae eventually wants to settle for like a 6-man role, that could work with this team. But I could see him going somewhere else, sooner rather than later. Next up, we got the Chicago Bulls self-inflicted wounds. And this is just doing things out there like fouling and, turning the ball over and stuff like that, man. Things that can be fixed within itself. And once again, that just comes down to, for one, they have a new coach and stuff. And still a pretty young team. They got guys that have been injured quite a bit. A lot of that's just going to come with building chemistry and stuff over time. Next up, we got Cleveland Cavaliers, Sexton interrupted. Yes, this one really, really sucks because this team started off fantastic, like 5-0, and they've been struggling as of late. But I mean, like Darius and Colin, the good thing is that those guys are both extremely young. When they get completely healthy and everything like that, hopefully they pick up right where they left off. But hopefully this is not like the beginning of a trend of one of these guys always being injured, because that just really sucks. Next up, we got the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic's workload. Okay, so anytime I talk about this next part right here, people like Mavericks fans get upset with me about it. And that is just that Luka is so good, like MVP caliber player. But the issue is that, Kristaps Porzingis, this guy throughout like the last like 3-4 seasons has never been able to stay healthy. When he plays, he is so good. So I do see from the Mavericks standpoint where they're like, we don't want to trade Kristaps, and when he's back, we're going to be good. But if the guy's only playing half a season or whatever, then to me, it just isn't worth keeping that guy around anymore. Especially like the way Luka's been playing, you want to get like talented, healthy players around him. So I've always lately been on the boat as like, get like another like all-star in exchange for Kristaps. The original trade to get Porzingis on this team, you didn't really give up a lot. It wasn't like Dennis Smith and like a first-round pick. Might have been a little bit more. But regardless, like, I just feel like eventually a choice is going to have to be made there. And Kristaps, 7'2", 7'3" player, lower body injury. I mean, history tells that just doesn't really work out in the long term for an NBA player. So it's nothing against him as a player. It's just kind of the reality of the situation. Next up, we got Denver Nuggets, Michael Porter Jr.'s absence. I mean, you can say that about a lot of players, have that be injury or being out due to, COVID and stuff like that. Michael Porter, I'm not going to lie, I've not paid a lot of attention to the Denver Nuggets this season, but I will say, like, Porter, I think the high expectation was that he was going to be that solidified, nearing all-star player and third option on the Denver Nuggets team. So if he's not playing, then it's a lot of what we've seen last year, right? And I believe the year before, this is his third season, right? I believe, but the first season didn't play because of back injuries. Next up, we got the Detroit Pistons, Blake Griffin. Yes, I agree with this one. I mean, obviously I said Killian Hayes, but Griffin has been really, really bad and really, really unmotivated on this squad. And it really sucks, too, because he has taken minutes away from guys like Siko Doumbouya, and really just any of the young players out there, right? But the thing about Blake Griffin is that I want him to do well because, if he does well, then that ups his trade value. But right now, the way he's been playing, he's shooting like 28% from three, just I think like 39% field goal percentage in the first place. No team is going to want to trade for him, even if it's just like the same Drummond type of trade where it's like John Henson, Brandon Knight, and like a second round pick. Nobody's even going to take him on for the money because I think he's being paid next year too. So I don't know, man. I just wanted him to play well so we could hopefully trade him by the trade deadline, but that does not appear to be the case. He's just very unmotivated with the squad. Next up, we got the Golden State Warriors with Kelly Oubre's offense. Yeah, this is one that I think 1 trillion % is going to fix itself soon. I mean, I think a lot of it, too, is just being like a different role in the offense and stuff, going back to like his Phoenix Suns days, and maybe the pressure that he feels like he has to be like Klay Thompson for this team to be successful. And it's like that doesn't really have to be the case. You can be an extremely athletic player that if you could shoot like 36% from three off like 5 attempts per game, you're golden. Like, no pun intended. Maybe a little bit. I saw the word golden in front of me, so that's why I said it. But yeah, Oubre just has to like chill, get within the system, and he'll be good. Wiggins has actually been pretty nice, so that kind of helps things out a bit. He's been averaging like 3 blocks per game. Wiggins has. Next up, we got Houston Rockets stuck in limbo. I mean, this team is so upsetting right now, man. Mainly James Harden, and just like by the time you're watching this, James Harden might be traded. Last I saw, they are going through some trades with the Nets and 76ers. You might be watching this. He might be off the team. And limbo will be no more, at least for the Houston Rockets. Next up, we got the Indiana Pacers with the TJ Warren void. Yeah, this one really sucks because this man was so amazing in the bubble. Like, Bubble Warren was definitely a thing. Huge loss, man. The Pacers seem to have a lot of bad lucks. Every single season was somebody getting injured at some point. Have that be, Paul George going way back, Victor Oladipo, TJ Warren. I just want to see this team completely healthy because I feel like they would be very damaging in the Eastern Conference. Next up, we got the Clippers. The blown lead problem isn't gone. And I have no idea why. I cannot explain it, man. Like, Kawhi Leonard, going back to, like, when he played for the Raptors, was, like, one of the best closers in the league. And this Clippers team, just something about it, man. I don't know what it is. They just, like, blowing a lead like that. At first, when it happened last year, we were like, okay, that's just what Doc Rivers does. But Doc Rivers is no longer the coach of the team. So at that point, what do you blame it on? I don't really know. Next up, we got the Lakers, the continued reliance on LeBron James. This one's a non-issue at all. I mean, LeBron James is still playing like the top player in the NBA. He's getting paid to. Like, if he was getting paid like, $5 million a season to be like, hey, you're getting old, LeBron, you're like the fourth option on this team now, then that might be an issue because the guys above him are not stepping up. But he's still getting paid like a superstar. I mean, he should be relied on like a superstar. I feel like that's how contracts work in the NBA. So, yeah, next up we got the Grizzlies postponed development. Yep, I'm not sure when Ja's supposed to be back, but regardless, that injury sucked. Nobody wanted to see that. Next up we got the Miami Heat shooting themselves in the foot, and I think a lot of this one just comes down to maybe like offensive efficiency, and I guess we'll check it out right here. It says, despite having a top 5 effective field goal percentage through 3 weeks, they only have the 19th ranked offense. I guess that comes down to empty possessions and rarely getting second chance opportunities, which you think Bam would be all over those rebounds and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I guess it's just like team effort and more guys grabbing boards and just executing better out there, right? Next up, we got the Bucks. We got technical stubbornness. I'm pretty sure what they mean by this is just like simply it's so easy to say, hey, give the ball to Giannis, move the hell out of the way. It's been kind of the offense the past few seasons, and it's kind of worked, right? But with that being said, man, like it has not led to a championship yet. So it's okay to do that at times. Like that can be like a go-to in the playbook. It's just ISO for Giannis. But there has to be other things out there because teams are really going to start catching on to that. They're going to start building up their rosters to defend that. And yeah, the Bucks have to, especially the coach, has to be able to make those adjustments. Next up, we got the Minnesota Timberwolves. We got everything. So this can go down to, Karl Anthony Towns' injury, D'Lo not playing great or whatever. Have not really watched a lot of Timberwolves basketball, but Anthony Edwards I saw was doing decent last I checked, but I don't know what his situation currently is. But yeah, it always seems like with the T-Wolves, it's something going on, right? Okay. Next up, we got the Pelicans, the slowdown. So this is going to come from Stan Van Gundy. He's always been a guy that's kind of ran like a slower offense. I mean, when I first saw that he was signed as the coach to this team, like I was actually a little bit nervous. I had a little bit of like high hopes that he was going to develop a team similarly to how he ran the offense around Dwight Howard on the Orlando Magic and just surround him from three-point shooters, except do that with Zion. But yeah, they really slow things down a bit. And with having Ingram, Zion, guys like that, that's the team you probably want running in transition, no doubt. So if you're slowing things down, that's playing against, just like what Zion could do out there from an athletic standpoint. It almost takes away from his athleticism, if that makes sense. Next up, we got the New York Knicks. Don't worry, it's coming. Okay, so the Knicks have actually been pretty decent at times this season, so I guess what they mean by this is probably just like, okay, maybe they have not been disappointed yet, but something's going to happen, which I think is kind of disrespectful to say, straight up, man. Shout out to the Knicks. Like, they've been fine, I would say. All right, next up, we got the OKC Thunder. Too much winning. Nope, does not bother me one bit because this team does have young players like Shea or Dort, guys along those lines that you want to just get that NBA experience. It's like they already have so many first-round picks. It's like, okay, maybe your pick won't be a lottery pick, or maybe your pick will be like the 13th pick in the draft, but you have so many other draft picks out there. It's similar to last season that I said, it's like you got Chris Paul and stuff. It's cool. You got so many young assets. You got so many draft picks. Go out there, make the playoffs, have fun. And in the process, you have so many draft picks, so it's fine. I don't think it's an issue whatsoever. Next up, we got the Magic. Markelle Fultz torn ACL. When I saw this, it hurt so bad, man. I don't know if I really don't even know if we'll ever even see Markelle Fultz again in the NBA. I really don't. It was a miracle that D Rose came back from so many injuries. I hope we see Markelle again. But damn, I thought he was gonna be most improved player. I saw the turn happening, man. And then, well, this happened. Markelle Fultz is pretty much just like that injured what-if story of this era, unfortunately. Next up, we got the 76ers. Ben Simmons is the same. Okay, I don't see any issue with having a guy that's a top playmaker, one of the quickest players in the NBA, one of the best defensive players in the NBA, being the same player. I mean, it seems like everybody's waiting for Simmons to turn this 25, 30-point per game scorer. He's just not that. So you know what he is. He's still a top point guard in the NBA. Surround him with the right players that, caters to his style of play. And I think getting guys like Seth Curry definitely help. You have Joel Embiid out there. Simmons is who he is. Even if he does not develop any more as a player, you still have yourself one hell of a player. And I think that's okay. Next up, we got the Phoenix Suns, DeAndre Ayton's impact. Yeah, he's averaging 14 points. I think maybe 10 rebounds, which for a first overall pick at this point, a little disappointing. Not to mention he's playing with one of the best point guards of all time in Chris Paul. I thought that alone was going to up this man to be a 20 and 10 guy, but it's not really appearing to be that. It's a little disappointing. Next up, we got the Portland Trail Blazers. The overhaul didn't fix as much as we thought. Yeah, obviously getting Derrick Jones, Robert Covington. I mean, this team appeared to be a few wing players away from really making noise, and they could still do something. Who knows? You got CJ and Damian Lillard. Nurkic, from what I've been seeing Portland fans saying, is has not been all that great, so maybe he needs to step up a little bit. But yeah, I think this is the team that will probably figure things out. Next up, we got the Sacramento Kings, the dispiriting familiarity of it all, and that probably just comes down to, well, De'Aaron Fox is playing good, but we're not really winning games. And just kind of seeing Tyrese Halliburton's been nice, so we got to give him that, right? He's been really good. Next up, we got the Spurs. Mid-range love persists. Popovich is still the coach. That's the type of offense he likes to run. And DeMar DeRozan is still one of your top 2 or 3 players on the team. That's how he plays. I guess there's not really much you can do with that. That's just what it is with the team. That would take a complete, haul within players and eventually Popovich retiring. And nobody really wants to see that anyway, so it's fine. Next up, we got the Raptors. Pascal Siakam. I don't know, man. Like Pascal, like from I don't know his exact stat line, but from what I was seeing, he's still putting up really solid numbers. I wouldn't say it's so much like Pascal. I would say it's more so the closing, and maybe that's drawn up to Pascal, but I think that's more so drawn up to coaching and just not really putting guys in the right situation to close down the stretch. But I mean, I could see where Pascal, where like people would be angry about that, but like I said, man, going back to both those possessions, the game-winning possessions, there was just nothing else executed out of the flow of the offense. So that's really what it came down to, was him spin moving to get open. I mean, he had to do something. He got close to the basket both times. I think one time he was close to the basket, the other time it was like a long two. Next up, we got the Jazz, Donovan Mitchell. I think a lot of people came to the season expecting him to be like that superstar shooting guard player. The thing my issue with the Jazz is that, outside like Donovan Mitchell, I mean, like Mike Conley, Bojan Bogdanovic, like those guys are fine players. But when you commit $205 million to Rudy Gobert, who is not really an offensive threat, yes, he can do some things offensively, I guess, but it leaves a lot to be desired on the rest of the roster. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on Donovan Mitchell to be like the sole go-to offensive player. And then last but not least, but maybe kind of, we got the Washington Wizards. Bradley Beal is still wasting his brilliance. I suppose so. I feel like Bradley Beal is kind of like the Kevin Love this era, where, Caleb was amazing on the T-Wolves, went to a different team, was still a great player, an all-star caliber player. But for Bradley Beal, like to really win championships, he has to take a lesser role on a team and be like that second or third option. Because I don't expect him to be dropping no 30, 35 points or whatever on a contending team. That's just, I mean, that proves to not work, obviously, right? So, yeah, I think Beal eventually gets traded and becomes that second or third option on some, contending team, and things will be fine, man. But that's all we got for today's video. Hope you guys all enjoyed. Be sure to drop that like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and peace out, my friends.